Wow. Wow, Nickelodeon. What happened? Never have I seen a SpongeBob episode this mean-spirited as this one right there. This is one of the most mean-spirited episodes that I've seen next to Little Yellow Book and the Powerful Gary. And a few other mean-spirited SpongeBob episodes, and horrible ones too. The Abrasive side. Let's get this started. Cue the intro, please. Hey guys, this is Jonathan's Media Shack here again, and today, here it is, another SpongeBob rant that you've all been waiting for, and it's the Abrasive side from Season 7. So basically, what the plot's about is SpongeBob is waiting at the bus stop so that he can go to Glove World with Patrick. A fish accidentally steps on SpongeBob's face, not realizing he was there since he was sleeping on the ground. SpongeBob informs him of this, and he steps off his face, and he tells him he spent the night there so he would be in first in line, and he actually promised Patrick that they would be in first in line, and the first ones to get on the bus. The man says, that's very interesting stuff. Do you mind if I cut in front of you? SpongeBob tries to be strong and say no, but he ends up letting the fish cut him anyways, making him behind the other fish. And then later, more fishes come and cut in front of him. Patrick comes and he gets angry at SpongeBob, and he's like, SpongeBob, I thought you promised we'd be first in line. SpongeBob says that he was sorry, but they'll still be able to catch the first bus. Patrick now no longer mad at SpongeBob for breaking his promise. He becomes happy and the bus comes so they can run to it. They almost got in the bus, but Sandy comes. She asks SpongeBob for a favor, like for him to do an Operation Acorn smoothie. SpongeBob says no, but after his guilt trip from Sandy, he then unhappily agrees and tells Patrick he'll be on the next bus. So Patrick goes to Glove World without him, and after the situation with Sandy, he goes back to the bus stop. But then Mr. Krabs comes in and asks SpongeBob to say no to Pearl about the new shoes that she desperately wants. And after when SpongeBob says no to Pearl, guess what Pearl does? She cries like a total bitch. Yeah, because they flanderized her that much that she acts like a complete and total bitch. Just like how she was in Tunnel of Glove, Grandpappy the Pirate. You know how they flanderized Pearl in seasons 5 through 9. They made her like a complete and total bitch. And she even cried like a bitch as well. And don't even get me started on Barnacle Face, which we'll get to that very soon. Probably like a few days. I'll rant on that soon. And afterwards, he goes back to the bus stop. And his grandma comes and asks him to help her cross the road. SpongeBob, as usual, says no, but then his guilt trips into helping anyways. Patrick returns and he becomes angry at SpongeBob once again for making him go to Glove World by himself. SpongeBob says he was sorry, but people kept asking him to do things. Patrick then tells SpongeBob like a really bad advice. That sometimes he just has to say no and needs to grow thicker skin. Then it reminds him to ask SpongeBob to scratch his back. Ew! Even with that image that they show, it's really gross. And, SpongeBob does it anyways. Later, SpongeBob is shown at the house crying to Gary about how he can't say no to anything anyone asks him. Because he's too soft. Gary then goes to a catalog and orders something for SpongeBob, which turns out as an adhesive fabric named Abrasive Sponge, which is an abrasive side designed for doormat sponges to stick on their backs and strengthens their attitudes. SpongeBob feels this is perfect for his situation. Of course, because Patrick gave SpongeBob a really bad advice. So he sticks it on his back and it begins to insult Gary. SpongeBob then becomes oblivious to this and goes off after saying goodbye to him. He goes out and Pillar asks him to carry his groceries for him, but his body rotates and his abrasive side says, "Carry him yourself, you motherfucker," for SpongeBob. And he does the same thing for Larry, who asks him to help him put sun lotion on. And he's like, "Fuck off." And Grandma, who asked for helping crossing the street, he said, you can walk on your own, Granny, so you could just fuck off." And Sandy, who asks him, like, "Really, Nickelodeon? Is that how you try to teach kids? Acting cold-hearted to one another? And saying hateful things? That is not a way to go, Nickelodeon. That is not a way to go." However, and after Sandy asked him to help her with a science invention, however, the abrasive side simply launches hateful insults at them, leaving them baffled, while Sandy's head vanishes when her dropped laser misfires and pierces her helmet. Then he goes to the Krusty Krab, where Mr. Krabs asks him to do a 17-hour extra shift. SpongeBob says yes, but then his abrasive side rejects the offer unless Mr. Krabs pays him for overtime. Mr. Krabs then becomes bewildered, for he had never heard this word before. I think we did heard that word, with the episode where SpongeBob and Patrick had to babysit a baby oyster clam, and after SpongeBob got out the briefcase and took pro desserts at Patrick, he's like, "Oh, so this is the thanks I get for working overtime." And SpongeBob freaks out and he's like, "Overtime?" Yeah, I heard that word overtime before. So don't give me that bullshit, Mr. Krabs. Yeah, he goes into his office and looks it up on a dictionary. And when he discovers that it leads to his financial loss, Mr. Krabs is horrified at this disgusting words. Yeah. Like, really? Why would Mr. Krabs freak out over the word overtime? It's not even a bad word. These directors, I don't know what they were thinking. But they flanderized all of the SpongeBob characters so badly. Except for Squidward and Plankton. And then he goes home and Squidward sarcastically says, "Oh, fun. I suppose you want me to do some fucking moronic games, or you'll just follow me around all day, fuck up my day, and never leave me the fuck alone, huh?" But then the abrasive sponge taunts at him and says, "Afraid not. I wouldn't hang out with you for all the money in Mr. Krabs' ass." And for some reason, Squidward then becomes overjoyed. And he cried tears of joy. He really did cry tears of joy, and he gave him a hug for that. Patrick says it's time for their play date. SpongeBob talks, but the abrasive side fights himself. And he's like, "You better fuck off, you big pink motherfucker." Patrick then becomes terrified and promptly leaves. SpongeBob then becomes confused but goes into his house and goes to the bathroom and stares into the mirror and realizes that it causes more trouble than good. Yep, he then realizes it's causing more harm than kindness. Yeah. Finally, after the bullshit advice Patrick gave SpongeBob, he finally snaps about this. Mainly because it has mind of its own. He asks Patrick for help, but the abrasive side scares him away once again. SpongeBob then goes to Mr. Krabs for help, who is still cowering at the word overtime. Oh, please. The abrasive face takes over and tells Mr. Krabs he wants overtime. Mr. Krabs then becomes furious and kicks SpongeBob out. SpongeBob for using very offensive language. Eventually, SpongeBob makes it to a headless Sandy and pulls the string below her helmet to restore her head. And after hearing SpongeBob's explanation when he explained, Sandy advises him to remove it for good. She pulls it off while he grabs on Patrick, causing him to scream in pain, briefly. The abrasive sponge is then packaged and returned to sender. SpongeBob soon remembers owing Grandma an apology for being cold-hearted to her, and heads to her home, only to discover that she has also attached an abrasive side sponge to herself, which insults him. SpongeBob yells, "No!" in despair, and it ends. That's basically what the plot's about. I'll explain the next part, so part 2 will be in session.